Welcome to Greenable Woodbridge. I am your host, and because it's March and it's Women's History Month, I thought it would be a fun show if I invited two women who have dedicated their careers to the environment. And so my guests today are Lauren Drum and Wanda Monahan. Wanda is an attorney with Wanda Chen Monahan Attorneys, and Lauren Drum is working at DEP as an environmental specialist.
Yes. So
why don't we start by having you just tell us about who you are and how you got into this field of sustainability. So Lauren, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, I grew up in Woodbridge Township, and my roots in the environmental field really just spurred from my education here in the Woodbridge public school system. I had amazing science teachers who really taught me so much about the environment and really inspired this interest in climate change and sustainability. So that was my origins, and it really was all founded in education, and I went on to college and got my degree in environmental science at Duquesne University, and I also got my master's in environmental science and management at Duquesne as well in Pittsburgh. And then I always knew that I wanted to be a public servant in some capacity, and that's what landed me at the New Jersey DEP, where I get to do this great work centered around climate change and sustainability every day, and it's really just a privilege.
That is. It's like whatever you do, you're giving back because you're working on something so important.
Absolutely.
And Wanda.
Yeah, I went to law school. I wasn't really sure what I was going to specialize in, and shortly after I graduated, I had an opportunity to join the New Jersey Attorney General's office representing the state DEP. And at that time, environmental law was really a burgeoning field, so I took it, and it was the best decision I ever made. The people at the state are just absolutely wonderful in terms of mentoring and everything else, and really seeing all the public policies behind the regulations and the laws and so forth, which gave me a great foundation. And after several years, I went back into private practice, but I still continue to do really a lot of site remediation, brownfields work, and so in that we help our clients remediate sites and then put them back to productive use. So it's really just been a very rewarding career
And
path.
we've worked together on a few projects in town. That's how I know you.
That's right, we certainly have. And Woodbridge is really just one of the leading towns in the state when it comes to environmental sensitivities and also brownfields redevelopment and sustainability issues as well.
Thank you. We try.
Yes.
So I would imagine when you first became an environmental attorney, were there many women in the field?
There weren't, and it's funny because at the time when I was in law school, the numbers of law students, women were starting to gain, on men and so forth, and of course now it's the majority of students are really women over men, and yet in my particular field of specialty, I still don't find, unfortunately, a lot of women, in the private side.
Which leads me to my next question for both of you. How do we encourage women? And I'm not just saying young women, because one of the things about women is we have many chapters in our life. And sometimes, for children, you might leave the workforce, or you might want to change your career, or with COVID, you might want and need a new direction. What can we do to help women to get involved in these great careers in the environment? Lauren, from your experience, being a young person.
Yeah, that's definitely at the forefront of my mind right now as someone who might be transitioning to a different chapter of my life and my career. I would say just making childcare, more accessible to more people. You spend a lot of time and a lot of money investing in yourself and your career, especially if your career requires degrees, multiple degrees, a JD, and you invest a lot of time so you don't want to step away. There is a resistance to stepping away because you already invested in yourself and your career. So I think if childcare could be a little bit more accessible, because not everyone has the luxury of having parents who can watch your children and that sort of thing, I think that would be a huge help to just families in general, men and women, so that you don't have to make that decision for one of you to have to step away.
And you know, that's a big part of sustainability. Sustainability is not just the environment, it's making families be healthy and whole, and women's careers, especially now, enabling women to not have to make that choice alone.
Yes,
and it's very, very important.
I think in the wake of COVID, with the the widespread of remote work and so many more companies and government entities seeing that it is possible for people to work from home and be productive, that I imagine is a huge help for many working families who have children. And so I hope that continues, that option.
There are some good things that came out of COVID. And that is one of them. Not too many, but that is one of them.
Absolutely.
Wanda, what would you say?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Lauren said. My husband and I have raised 4 sons. I have, worked continuously throughout my career and all of that. And, aside from having a wonderfully supportive husband, there were just ways to, make it work. And I think what Lauren said in terms of, the remote working now and really the recognition of flexible schedules. You don't necessarily have to do all of your work between the hours of 9 and 5 or 6 or whatever. You really can get up at, 6 a.m., log a few hours in, get the kids off to school or daycare, and then, come back and all of that. So I think, the world has really evolved in a really positive way. And I think that it's because, they're recognizing that the contributions of women in the workforce are multiple. And as you said, Carol, the whole family concept and not having to make an either or choice, it's really something that benefits really everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are lots of organizations for people with careers in the environment. Are there any that you would that you are a member of, that you've played an active part, that you would say to our audience, if you're interested in learning more or doing more, this is an organization that you might want to be a part of?
Yeah, certainly the 2 that come to my mind immediately are the women's section of the New Jersey State Bar Association, for lawyers. The other one is the New Jersey Society of Women Environmental Professionals, and it's called NJ SWEP for short. And it's a wonderful group of professional women who have different careers in the environmental field. There are lawyers, there are consultants, there are members from New Jersey DEP who are members, and certainly over the last couple of years, the meetings and the outings and the conferences and things have been a little, more remote. But I'm hoping that in 2022 we'll all start, getting back to in-person events so that we can continue to network, socialize, and be able to meet other really great women, see where we can help one another.
Right. There's an organization that we've worked on together, which is Brownfield, BCONE.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know if you can remember what that stands for.
Right, the Brownfields Coalition of the Northeast, another great group. It's actually, a lot of the leadership happen to be women, and that's another wonderful organization that I was a trustee for 10 years, and I've stepped back a little bit from the organization because of other commitments, but it's a great organization, Lauren, and, again, just to meet folks in the private sector and really the whole broad scope of environmental professionals.
Yeah. And one organization that comes to my mind, because I recently got involved in my town's local environmental commission, is ANJEC. And so they issue, I think quarterly or seasonal newsletters that kind of give a holistic picture of what's going on in the state of New Jersey, what are the hot topics policy-wise, and it's just a great resource for environmental commissions. And so if you're really interested and want to join your local environmental commission,
perfect plug, because we need more people on our environmental commission, and that is an organization. You don't have to be a professional.
No.
And it's a good way to get involved and be a part of it and learn so much.
Yes, and many environmental commissions also have a green team that are kind of not appointed positions, so it's a little less of a commitment, and you could still do great work and work closely with the Environmental Commission if you don't want to take the full leap of being in an appointed position.
And Lauren lives in Bordentown City, which is where my daughter and her family live. So, when that's why I said yay when you said in your hometown, because it's kind of like my second home.
That's right.
And they do very well with Sustainable Jersey.
Yes.
And so when you talk about the green team, I'm always following them, and they do an awful lot of things. But I think as we're talking about women in the environment, we can't stress enough, a great place to start is locally. On your green teams, part of Sustainable Jersey, the Environmental Commission, all of those are options. And here in Woodbridge, all you have to do is either reach out to me or the mayor or whatever, and you can be a part of it. Because we need our residents to be much, much more involved.
Absolutely.
So here we are talking about Women's History Month, and we're talking about sustainability. And I'm just wondering how else you would bring those two areas together, women and sustainability. Tough question, and this is one of the very few times I must apologize that I did not send out the questions in advance. So.
Yeah, that is a big question.
Yeah.
I think that, as Wanda kind of alluded to, as far as the environmental profession right now, at least, from what I've seen personally in my career path, women are pretty well represented in the environmental profession overall at this moment in time. But it's always, there always seems to be slightly fewer women in the environmental and sustainable professions that maybe are more hands-on in the sense of like a trade profession. And that's something I was hoping to talk about today, because I know I said earlier that education has been kind of the foundation of my path in the environmental field, but there are so many wonderful careers in the environmental profession and in sustainability. Electricians, for installing solar and wind, and these are these sorts of trade professions are typically, male dominated, but there's no reason why women can't be in these fields as well. And, higher education and college is not on everyone's path, for one reason or another. And so it would be great to see more women in that field, because it is an important part of this sustainable movement and this electrification of our economy that seems to be the way things are going. So I think that's a budding field for women and sustainability.
And one of the things on the town's to-do list, we haven't done it yet, but what we want to do is do some training locally for people to learn how to install solar panels and whatnot, because that's just such a growing field.
Yes, absolutely.
So important.
Absolutely.
Wanda, what would you think?
I would say that we can learn from history, and that is that as Lauren suggested, how her career began in education, right? So in high school and in college and even in grade school, it would be great to have programs, right, targeted towards environmental issues and sustainability really at such a young age, because these are things that kids, I think, could be interested in, and perhaps being involved in their local town's green team, whether it means doing a river cleanup or trying to install park benches or something like that. These are things that are easily attainable and achievable. And once you sort of instill that, kind of giving back and really caring about your environment, caring about your town and all of that. And these are things that are more family oriented. And I think that women can have a really great role in, fostering that, both in their own children and in just the children of the community of the township. And then I think it kind of goes from there.
Yeah, so Lauren, you're going to just love this. Yeah. So when you were here as a teenager, and you were my intern. You started, not me, you started the youth leadership.
Yes.
And we have, since COVID is over, we have started the group again. And we asked them what it was that they wanted to focus on. And they picked 3 areas: mental health, sustainability, and LGBT+. And so what you started still lives on here in Woodbridge. And so the young people are just so excited. I don't know if you remember Brianna. She was on your young...
Yes,
yeah, well, she's running it now.
Oh, amazing. I love to hear that.
So we've been trying to give them ideas of things they can do, you know, like the painting the drains, tell people not to block them. And we actually have a meeting coming up on Saturday with them to see how we can work together and what they could do. So you got any ideas?
Yes, absolutely. I have tons of ideas, always. I have too many and I don't know what to do with them all. But I think there's also a unique opportunity right now in Woodbridge with the redevelopment that's happening, you know, making our walkways, you know, more interesting for people.
Good idea.
Maybe doing a living green wall, maybe on our bus terminal overhangs where people sit for sun shelter, maybe making pollinator gardens on top of those.
I'm writing that down.
You know, because this development is going to bring in a lot of commuters, you know, and people, we want people walking to Main Street, you know, because it's right there and it's going to be so accessible to people. And we really, I think there's an opportunity to make that walking experience really cool and incorporate sustainability into that.
That's beautiful. You sure you don't want to move back to Woodbridge?
You never know.
You know, we're hearing that from Lauren in terms of, you know, this initiative that she had when she was an intern with you, Carol, right? And to know that that's still going on, I think just exemplifies the fact that anyone can just have one seemingly small contribution, and you just don't know how it's going to take off and where it's going to lead to other things. And so, you know, for our young folks and whatever else, you know, doing just a little something can really snowball into so much else.
You never know.
You just never know, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, it kind of goes with my feeling is, and when people ask me to give advice to young women, one of the pieces of advice I always give is go through every door that opens up for you. You don't know what opportunity is going to be there.
Exactly.
And never ever slam a door behind you. So, and that's kind of, you know, that's what this is talking about, opening the door. Now, when we first sat down, and I said, oh, ladies, you have to wait. So you talked about how your careers touched for a little bit of time there, and I think it's kind of important because it's about networking and relationships, and that's what we need to do more of as women. And so if you want to share what, you know, way back when, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because, you know, when you mentioned that Lauren was going to be the other guest on your show today, I thought, boy, her name is so familiar to me. And then Lauren, when you heard my name, right?
Same thing.
So when Lauren was interning with Carol, I guess at some point you were thinking about maybe going to law school, and Carol asked me, you know, would you mind speaking to Lauren? I was like, no, of course, that would be great. And, you know, we had a nice long conversation about it, and I think I was probably open and candid about, you know, sort of the pros and cons and, you know, the benefits and, you know, the stresses and all those things, the commitments of going to law school and becoming a lawyer and all of that. And to hear that you are now with New Jersey DEP, I'm just thrilled because, as I said, my time with the State Attorney General's office really set my career path, you know, to have a successful career in environmental law. So I think that is just really wonderful where you've landed.
Yeah, and Wanda's honesty and candor with me really put me on a path where I ended up exactly where I want to be, where I am still working closely with attorneys almost every day and doing, you know, a legal aspect in my work, and but I also still get to interact with the science, which is what I love about the environmental profession and what really drew me to it in the first place. So I get to be in this really nice sweet spot between the legal and the science, and I feel like I get the best of both worlds. And it was because I've had great mentors like Wanda, like you, Carol, who have just given of their time, because we all know that time is our most valuable resource, and whenever someone gives it to you, don't undervalue that, because
that's good advice.
Because especially some working moms, and we're all stretched thin, and so if someone's taking the time to give you some really valuable insights, be appreciative of it. I've always tried to be, and now I'm trying to pay it forward to some younger folks in my life.
Lucky at them, yes.
Yeah, so it's great.
Lauren, because I know you, I know that your vacations are not always sitting on the beach at Aruba. Do you want to talk about some of the things, your vacations, what you do in the spare time, where your life is not just your career, you are really... sustainability is your life. It is,
and it absolutely kind of drove my decision to do this with my profession, because my profession is more than a job to me. And I know that's not for everyone. And I've realized that over time, some people want to leave it at work and leave their work there and then come home. But me, I never seem to turn off, thinking about the environment, thinking about sustainability, and it works for me because it brings me joy and it makes me happy. It doesn't weigh on me. And so that kind of infiltrates into my personal life and where I go on vacation. I was just in Utah for 5 days, which was absolutely stunning, and I couldn't stop. My friends were making fun of me because I couldn't stop looking at the shrubs. There's these stunning mountains everywhere you look, like 360, and I'm like, these shrubs though, look at them, they're amazing. So I definitely, even on vacation, and I'm planning on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in September. I was actually in Tanzania, 7 years ago now at this point, and I didn't get to climb Mount Kilimanjaro when I was there. And so now I'm going back, and I've been in contact with some of my friends that I made while I was over there. So that will be another fun, nature-filled adventure. And so hoping to do some nice work with the Rotary Club there to help them with their local initiatives. They do a lot of bridge building across some of the rivers there at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro to help people, get where they need to go. And so I still keep in touch with some friends that I've made over there with that Rotary Club, and should be a fun adventure for me coming up.
I can't wait to hear about it as you go on it.
Yes.
So, and Wanda, how about in your personal life? How does it extend out?
Yeah, I think that, in speaking about my work at home, through the years, raising our 4 boys and everything else, they've, I think, learned quite a bit about what it is I do every day. And so being able to share that with them, and then for them to ask me questions about, why are you doing this, or, how come, this problem has arisen and all, and how are you going to solve it, Mom? And, just being able to share those, some of my work experiences with my kids in a way that they can understand it, in context, has just been really great. And so, even when they were young, we were driving around and, seeing a park, I would say to them, guys, the park's not just here. There's a reason why this park is here. It's because people cared enough to want to preserve this land, to be able to make it, accessible to the public and everything else. And, I think that kind of awareness and, has really, helped my boys have a broader, view, broader context of the world, their environment, all around them and all. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep. It's something that starts with parenting.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Lauren, I just want to say to you that I think you are extraordinarily fortunate to have known what it is that brings joy in your life, and to be able to find a career path, because what my husband and I have tried to teach our boys is, if you find something that you can do that you love, it'll never seem like work.
Yep.
Right?
It's so true.
I mean, it really is.
And my mom used to say the same thing to me. She would say, Lauren, you are so lucky that you had this calling almost.
Right.
And it was, you just knew that was your path. And I guess you take it for granted because you don't realize that
How lucky you are.
Yeah. But,
Right. But when you go to work every day with a smile on your face, and that smile stays there all day, it's great, and that's contagious.
Well,
and
it's the same for you, Carol.
I love this job.
And for however many years we've known and worked together and everything else. I mean, your enthusiasm for the township and the mayor's initiatives and everything else, I mean, it's 24/7, but you never talk about it other than in a positive way. I mean, you can see that it just brings joy in your life as well.
Yep, and there's always something new and different.
Always.
We only have a couple minutes left, but it's like yesterday I got a phone call from Fish and Wildlife. Do you know you have eagles, eagle nest over, where we're building the walkway along the Raritan River?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I heard about it, and we're pretty excited. and so he's going to be watching and keeping us posted. But that's part of the fun of this. There's always something new happening.
Exactly.
So we have about, I guess, a couple of minutes left. If there's something that you would just each like to sum up, some final advice to women who want to be in this field, or anything you want.
Yeah, I would just say, if you have an interest in this field, if you're a young woman, there's a ton of opportunities, and it's a very diverse field. So you could really specialize in any number of ways, whether you want to be more involved in the legal end of things, policy, like what Wanda does as a lawyer, as an attorney, or if you want to be on the science end of things, or like I said before, on the more technical, hands-on trade end of things. Don't shy away from it. It's not going anywhere. The environment is always going to matter, and it's always going to be important to protect our environment. So I would say that it's a wise field to get into if you really have the interest.
Thank you. And Wanda?
I would totally echo everything Lauren just said. And the other advice I would give is that, you shouldn't hesitate to reach out for help, because my feeling all my career for 30 years is that people want to help other people, and I think when it comes to women, we are really just more nurturing and just really want to help anyone. And so if you're looking to get into this career, reach out to people. Don't wait for them to reach out to you. Reach out, and there are folks everywhere who are just waiting to help you.
That's good advice, no matter what field you want to be in. It doesn't often just come knocking on your door.
That's right.
So sometimes you have to open it yourself.
That's right.
So I have a feeling that this little half-hour show might have prompted some women to be interested in the field of the environment.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah, but it's just you ladies were fantastic and inspiring, and please keep enjoying your jobs and sharing the joy of your work and of sustainability. So thank you for watching Greenable Woodbridge and being part of the excitement and part of the change.